What's the most desperate thing you've done to get laid? Drove 45 minutes right after an ice storm and almost died. Things you do when you're young and dumb. Does the opposite also count? I was couchsurfing at some girl's place in winter. She had me sleep on the floor right next to her bed and her house was really badly insulated. So I was freezing with just a thin mat and light sleeping bag. I wasn't really attracted to her, but, Lord, did her thick duvet and large double bed look inviting. So I put on my best seduction mode and it worked. I got upgraded to business. So that's the most desperate time I got laid for a bit of warmth. Flew from Australia to Toronto. I tried to impress a girl by reciting the entire periodic table while dressed as a sexy chemist. It didn't work. But hey, at least I got a good reaction from the bouncers at the club. Read a story on here once about a guy who desperately wanted to lose his virginity as a teen, so he looked up some female sex offenders in his area. IRC, he just showed up at this woman's house and it didn't go well. Used Tinder. I think online dating made me realize I need to have a certain level of trust in someone before I'm emotionally ready to have sex with them. Back when Facebook was new and Facebook stalking wasn't a thing yet. Extolled my love of Russian literature in my first conversation with her. This was a total lie. I only brought it up because it was listed as one of her interests on Facebook. The plan totally worked though. I got married once. We have a saying in Greek which translates something like this in English. A single hair from a pussy is strong enough to drag a ship. Most accurate explanation regarding this ever. I used to meet randoms off the internet in my late teens. I wasn't choosy. Eventually I realized I could join an escort agency and see guys who weren't much worse than my online randoms. And I got paid into the bargain. When I was living in England, I invited a rugby player back to my apartment for a cup of tea. I did not own tea. Yes, it worked. Read the Twilight series. I got so much shit from my coworkers. Went to church. Laughed at a dude's stand-up jokes when they weren't funny. Acted like I liked her kid. I pretended to like jazz. He was really hot, had a huge bulge. Unfortunately, it was all balls. Loudly crying. Changed the way I act, portray myself so that guys would find me sexy. So lame. And now that I am more authentic, I have actually good sex with people I actually like. Flew 2,000 miles. Drove an hour both ways in a snowstorm in my broken-ass Ford Taurus. Honestly, sex was worth it. I rode a motorcycle, legally drunk, through central London wearing no helmet. Gave it to the pillion. Got pulled over. Told the truth. Got a pass. I pushed that 125cc about 1 kilometer through Camden Town to get to her place. Was a long time ago. But God bless that officer. Made away with a 7-day producer for a loud pipe. Worth it. Watched a shit ton of One Piece so I had something to talk about with him. Bought a PS4 and pretended to like games so I could bang this girl by learning the ropes and playing with her at her place at weekends, where my dumb country boy ass drove over an hour to try and cure my down bad. Worked, played hard to get, and that just made me horny AF for her pierced lip and beautiful smile. But after I told her I just got the PS4 and games to kinda bang her, she was surprised and seemed to consider it romantic gesture and jumped on me. Good times, smiling face with hearts. Paying prostitutes. Wait, you guys are getting laid? I love that the variations are between drove 20 minutes to flew 3,000 miles. I tried to get with a Southern Baptist girl once. Like 3 years of side hugs. Pretending to enjoy Bible studies and going to church twice a week. Trying to impress her worked. Turns out she was seeing other guys on the side and didn't give a shit about the religion stuff. When FB was very new, I reconnected with my high school EXGF. It had been 10 years. She lived on the opposite coast from me. Long story short, I bought a ticket, flew coast to coast, stayed 2 weeks and flew back. It was every bit worth the money and time. Got laid at least once every day up to the day of my flight. Begged. Not my finest moment. I bet this girl, who I met at a local bar when I was living in Japan, 10,000 yen, that if we had sex I could make her orgasm. But if she did, she would have to pay main, 1,000 yen. She agreed since she was short on rent. I ended up loaning her 20,000 yen and became good friends after that. That girl could drink. Watched Purple Rain twice, worth it though. Bartered. She hesitated at first, but I explained that it's not prostitution if we go to the store and buy it afterward. I kept my end of the deal. Not yet, but I am about to talk to these girls at a bar. Wish me luck. I drove 45 minutes after not sleeping for 2 days, being kept awake by 240 milligrams of Vyvanse, multiple energy drinks and high AF off 310 UG of acid. Still fucked though. Woke up at 3 a.m. and drove from San Diego to San Francisco in a 30-year-old shitbox only to get dry humped fully clothed for 5 minutes while her Korean dorm mate made very pungent kimchi rice. I was a horny teenager, so things still worked. But mostly what worked was my brain afterwards. Realizing I had a 13-hour drive back home. Thanks a lot. Stupid dong. Edit dorm. Was an art college. Edit 2 and I was a virgin for 5 more years lol. Put on Wranglers and pretended to know like country music. Sketchy meetups from AIM while in college. Internet was Old West wild when it was young. Paid for an overpriced hotel room and arranged for a fat Jewish married woman twice my age to come over so that we could smash. It was very difficult, but I even managed to cum. The flashbacks of me going down on her still give me a gag reflex. Easily by far the worst sex of my life. Played a round of rock paper scissors with a friend to see who would take the guy home. I won, but also lost, had incredibly average sex, and midway through got thoroughly disgusted with myself. The guy was nice enough. Just unfortunate timing to be the latest in a string of one-nighters that eventually put me off sex. For over a year. Traveled hours. Granted, I was like 16 and only had a longboard and Florida's unreliable public transportation to rely on. Nothing yet, but if you repost in like a year or two I might have something for you. Drove 9 hours for coochie, wasn't worth it lol. I went to church. Catholic. Pretend to be vegan. I had no clue what to eat. Nearly starved for 4 days away with a beautiful girl. Was it worth it? Fuck yes, but that first full English. Went to see the play Beetlejuice on a date with a congresswoman and made out so aggressively that we got kicked out. Sadly, single moms are very, very easy to hook up with. But remember, if you're not one and done, there is the kid to think about and they will quickly see you as family. Don't leave the kids on PLZ. Drive an hour to sit in a cubicle for 10 hours. And then drive an hour home. Oh, laid. I thought you said paid. Craigslist. I got married. After 26 years, I'm starting to think that it was a good idea and not desperate. Give in to my pity. I remember thinking, what could it hurt? 30 meters Tinder 45W. I don't feel bad about it. I once convinced a woman that I was Kevin Costner, and it worked. Because I believed it.